another Zoom link. All right, are we all 10-4 on that?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's get rocking. Let's go to. We're going to start chapter 19. All right, and let's all go to 735. 735, left-hand side of the page. About 3 or 4 sentences down, we're talking about if we have a patient who we suspect is unresponsive from their diabetes, we need to, number 1, call for ALS backup because they may, obviously because of their mental status. So that's one thing we want to do. Read down a little bit to the third paragraph. And while you're forming your general impression, assess and make sure the patient's airway is patent, obviously, right? And then we're going to give that patient high flow oxygen. That's going to be our unresponsive diabetic patient. And even though if their blood level glucose is 94 or less, we're going to give them oxygen. But if they have altered mental status and their O2 sat is okay, we still give them high flow oxygen because they're altered. So obviously their brain needs more oxygen. So those are things we want to do with an unconscious diabetic patient. All right, page 729. Right-hand side of the page, top of the page, there's a chart there. It's talking about blood glucose levels. If you look at the top at the very left, it says blood glucose level. And then in parentheses, it's mg/dl. Well, what does that mean? That's milligrams per deciliter. So blood glucose level, we measure it in units of milligrams per deciliter. Make sure you remember that. Page 730. Bottom of the page, right-hand side. The very last sentence on the right-hand side under those bullets. Normal blood glucose level is what? It's between 80 and 120. That's the norm. 732. Top of the page, left-hand side. You need to know what DKA is, diabetic ketoacidosis. That's when we are burning fat, and because there's no insulin in the body. So fat metabolism and ketone production. Okay, that's a bunch of acid. That's all the bad stuff, and it forms diabetic ketoacidosis, which is DKA. Make sure you know what DKA is. 730 again. Left-hand side of the page in that table 19-1 on hypoglycemia versus hyperglycemia for the onset. Onset for hyper is hours up to days, and the onset for hypo, rapid within minutes. Make sure you remember that. So stay on that same page, 730. Go down a little bit for the skin. Look at the difference between the skin. For hyper, it's warm and dry. For hypo, it's pale and moist and cool. Know the difference between which one is which. Page 731, next page over. Down at the bottom of the page. Actually, the last paragraph. Starting at the last paragraph. When the body cells do not receive the glucose they require for energy, the body resorts to burning fat. So when the body's burning fat rather than glucose, acid waste is produced. That acid that's produced is called a ketone. Make sure you know that. When we're burning fat, we're producing ketones. All right, let's go to chapter 20. Page 753. (753) on the right-hand side of the page, right above the last paragraph. In an allergic reaction may be mild and local, characteristic by itching, redness, or tenderness, or it may be severe and systemic, a condition known as anaphylaxis. Keep reading. Highlight anaphylaxis is an extreme allergic reaction that is life-threatening and involves what? Multiple organ systems. Anaphylaxis involves multiple organ systems. Page 761. Find it. All right. Left-hand side of the page about epinephrine. You really kind of need to know all the things that epinephrine does. So if you get down to like the second or third sentence, it says epinephrine, or actually second sentence, epinephrine has various properties that cause the blood vessels to constrict, which reverses the vasodilation and the hypotension. This, in turn, number one, elevates the diastolic pressure, which improves the coronary blood flow. Number two, it increases the cardiac contractility. And number three, it relieves the bronchospasm in the lungs. Those are the properties of your epinephrine. Page 761, same page. Right-hand side of the page, table 20-2. Know your dosages for adults and children. Stay on 760 and 761, same page. Actually, page 761, left-hand side of the page. We want to know about stingers. Why we don't grab them with the tweezers? Well, why? Because we could squeeze more venom. So we want to scrape it. 790. Left-hand side of the page, the acronym SLUDGEM. You better memorize that. What is it? What is nerve gases? They overstimulate our parasympathetic nervous system. That's our sleep, our feed and breathe. So what happens to us when we're exposed to that? Well, we have salivation, lacrimation, urination, defecation, GI problems, emesis, and muscle twitching. Those are all the signs of nerve gas stimulation. I would remember that. All right, let's go to page 763. I'm sorry, 756. 756. There we go. 756. Left-hand side of the page. Know what urticaria is? Swelling localized. It's second paragraph under the picture on the left-hand side. So they get localized heat, widespread urticaria, which is what? Hives. And then read a little bit more. That orange word, you better know that, what a wheal is. A wheal is a raised, swollen, well-defined area on the skin. It's what you get when you get stung by when you get bitten by a mosquito. You get a wheal. I'm sure we've all had those being in Florida. We've had plenty of wheels. All right, 763. You know how hard this is for me to be flying to this because you guys know I hate to fly. But let's see, 763. Okay. Right-hand side of the page, the second paragraph. Because epi constricts the blood vessels, it may cause the patient's blood vessel pressure to rise significantly. So that's a side effect. They may get high blood pressure. What else happens if they get epi? Well, they could get an increased pulse rate and anxiety. They could get cardiac dysrhythmias, pallor, dizziness, chest pain, headache, nausea, vomiting. That's all normal side effects of epinephrine. So if that's happening to the patient after you give them epinephrine, that's just a side effect of it. Just be aware of that. 755. Oh, we already did that one. Oh, no, we didn't. Okay, 755. Under food, common allergies, left-hand side. Well, that's not it. Hold on. Oh, damn it. Oh, right-hand side, insect sting. Sorry, second paragraph, almost to the bottom of the page. Starts off, if the stinger, if the stinger is not removed from the skin, it can continue to inject venom for up to how long? 20 minutes. If it's not removed, it can inject up to 20 minutes long. All right, 763. Epi-auto-pen. Kind of goes with what we were just discussing about all the side effects. So if you get the one wrong, you're going to get them both wrong. So so just know all those side effects and that it's actually a normal thing. 761. 761. Presence. Okay, right-hand side of the page, table 20-2, epinephrine's indications. Know the indications. Well, when do we give it? When there's a severe allergic reaction causing airway, breathing, and circulatory compromise. So wheezing and hypotension, right? That's part of that. Breathing problem, right? And then we got circulatory compromise, which would be our hypotension. So wheezing and hypotension are indications. All right, page 759. Oops, sorry, wait. Let's see if there's any more 20s. Stand by. Ruh-roh. All right, my bad. We'll go back to that. But I missed 2 from 19, so hold on. Stand by, we'll go back to that. Page 761. Somebody remind me if I keep flying through there. Page 761. Epinephrine, what it actually does, its actions. Vasoconstriction and increased cardiac contractility. That's in that same table. So know your indications and know your actions and your dose. Page 764. Right-hand side of the page, the concentration is what? 1 to 1,000. So it is critical to remember that the IM injection, the concentration must be the 1 to 1,000 concentration. $763. Left-hand side of the page, number 8. If the patient's signs and symptoms don't improve after 5 minutes and the patient has another one, consider assisting the patient with the second dose. But what do you have to do before you give that second dose? Anybody?
Medical control.
Medical control, yeah. So if their symptoms don't, you can repeat after 5 minutes, but you got to call medical control. All right, so let me go back because I missed a couple from 19 real quick. There's 2. Page 730 to 731. Actually, it's on page 730, very bottom of the page. There's those bullets. A patient with new onset type 1 diabetes will have symptoms related to eating and drinking, such as polyuria, that's a lot of peeing, polydipsia, that's a lot of drinking, polyphagia, that's a lot of eating. They'll get weight loss and fatigue. New onset type 1 diabetes. 734. Right-hand side of the page, scene size up. Evaluate your scene safety as you arrive on scene. Well, why are they even putting scene safety in a diabetic chapter? Well, because somebody could have altered mental status, right? They could be acting nutty when you get there. If you feel intimidated, retreat, call law enforcement. All right. Chapter 21.